The logistics that go behind a fire are huge. And this is what the pandemics we're going to have problems with the pandemic. Crews live and breathe and eat together. Okay. Sure. Social distancing in a vehicle that holds 10 people is not going to work all that well. Yeah, they can wear a mask and they probably need to. On the fire line, they can't, because you don't want anything that's going to burn on your face.
Of course. Or to restrict breathing in a place that may not be conducive to that already. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you don't want to add to getting heat stress. And so that would be a problem. So a lot of the agencies now are saying, well, we're going to keep a crew as a family unit, which they really operate that way anyway, and not have crews intermix. They're trying to give them more vehicles so we can get more space between things. But the footprint for a fire camp is already large. You we can take over fairgrounds in no time. We can build our own city really fast. In fact, I've been to many places like Happy Camp, where our city is bigger than their city.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have supplies, and I have a medical unit, and I have a comm unit, and I have a caterer to feed everybody. And you have contract showers, and it's huge, you know? Okay. Now you want to put spacing in between things. Now it's going to be 3, 4, 5 times the size, depending on how many people you have.
Sure.
You know, so that's going to be huge. On the fire line, it's not as big a problem as long as the crews stay apart. Because when you're digging fire line, you're not like right next to each other. Because when you're swinging that plastic, you're swinging that shovel or hoe or whatever you're using. If you're within 10 feet of each other, the odds of hitting somebody are really high.
Sure.
So you learn that 10-foot spacing as you're putting in. And then there's huge spacing between you and the sawyers, because you don't want to get smacked by trees coming down. So the fire line itself is not going to be that big a problem. People coming into fire camp, well, you always have somebody coming in to help the caterer. You know, you got food trucks and all that coming in. You've got supplies coming in. You've got all sorts of people that want to come and visit, especially, nothing personal, but politicians. They love to come to fire camp. It's a great backdrop.
I can imagine.
And honestly, it's really good. It's good to educate people, because it's a huge problem here. It's just part of life here. I'm not so sure they want to see you this time around. Because
I bet.
you know that unless you're coming in with a mask and they can talk to you from 6 feet back. Sure. Some people take offense to that. Some people don't believe it. But when you've got a fire, can be 2 people, a fire can be 6,000 people. When you have 6,000 people captive, you really don't want to start anything. And in a fire camp, normally it is not uncommon for everybody to have a cold, the flu, bronchitis, especially the later the season goes.
Sure. Well, when you're eating in such close quarters and showering in such close quarters, there's a lot of logistics to work out anyway with 6,000 people. But in a pandemic, are you going to wipe everything down between crews eating? That just sounds crazy.
It's a lot of work, and it's not going to be all that easy to do.
Yeah.
So in most cases, they might start making smaller base camps where you have multiple base camps. I know that Cal Fire last year was using like Zoom meetings and stuff like that on the internet to brief all the camps at once, so everybody gets the same information.
Oh, that's neat.
So that will help.
Yeah,
it will help a lot. It's just that getting the internet connections, getting that kind of technology set up is going to be huge. Because even when I ran fires out of Castaic Lake, we had to install internet at Castaic Lake, which you don't expect at the bottom of the grapevine in LA.
Oh, yeah.
But we did,
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of different changes that happen. Just something as simple as flying folks from one point to the other in a helicopter. There's no social distancing there. God help the poor pilot, because he's with everybody. And you're not going to stay within a family unit. You're going to be flying multiple crews.
Yeah.
So you're one, the helitack crew, the folks that are actually loading you, putting your gear in, doing those kinds of things. They're going to be highly exposed to everybody that comes through the camp.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of logistics to think about, and how is it going to affect getting folks and resources to the line?
Yeah, and actually all of the changes you're talking about sound more expensive in a fire season that already is expensive for the state of California and for the forest.
Yeah. Right. Because in a base camp, like I said, you got a caterer, you got showers, it's all contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. One of the things when I was IC, which was, like 5-6 years ago, it was not uncommon for the base camp itself, all the contracts to be somewhere in $250,000 just for one base camp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you want to do multiple base camps. That's going to be a huge economic impact unless you find a way to economize.
Mm-hmm.
And not, for something as simple as you have one caterer, but do you hot can everything out to the other bases?
Yeah.
Well, there's a timing issue. What if they come in late? Well, then everything in that hot can is no longer valid because you might, get something in it, or it'll spoil. Yeah. So there's a lot of logistics there that have to happen. And we're used to building our city within 24 hours and having it operational. Okay, mm-hmm. Well, if you make multiple camps, it's going to be much tougher.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. More people, on one hand, that's more people potentially employed by addressing fire season, but of course, finding the resources to pay for it is also,
Exactly.